Welcome to the Well-Off Podcast, where the goal is to motivate, inspire, and share success principles. I'm your host, George Masri. This is the Well-Off Podcast, and today I interviewed Ribhu Rampersad, who is a full-time real estate investor and co-founder of Olympus Properties Group. He focuses on value-add acquisitions in Belleville, Ontario, and Trenton, Ontario. And his recent acquisitions include several duplex conversion projects, a mixed-use commercial residential property, and he's done several flips. And on this episode, we talked about how he got started in real estate investing, why and how he quit his full-time job at Procter Gamble, why he invests in Belleville and Trenton, the economic factors and other desirable traits of the cities, his recent mixed-use acquisition, some of the challenges he's faced with getting financing, and his development plans for this particular mixed-use property. So, I know you guys are going to enjoy it. Make sure to leave us a 5-star review on the Apple Podcast platform, and then give us a like and subscribe on YouTube. Also, share this with a friend or a family member that might benefit from listening to the information if they need a little kick to get started. And if you guys want to connect with me, you can go to welloff.ca and book a call there, or feel free to go on Instagram, welloffx. I'm happy to have conversations with you guys. I appreciate all your support. As mentioned in the past, we have lots of really cool opportunities now that the market's a little bit different with the recent interest rate hikes. So always happy to chat with you. And there you go. Enjoy the episode. All right. I'm here with Ribhu for the first time. This is the first time we meet. Thank you for coming out. I thought that because you invest in Belleville that you had driven out from there, which is a couple hours away, but you told me you're coming from Mississauga and then you live in Toronto. So anyway, thanks for coming by today.
Thanks for having me, man. It's cool to be here.
Yeah. So tell me a bit about your childhood. We were kind of talking about this a bit before we got started, but where'd you grow up and a couple good memories?
Sure. So I grew up in Trinidad and Tobago. Little island boy. So I went to school there up till 18, moved to U of T, so moved to Toronto for university, and I never went back. So kind of growing up, some fun memories, lots of time with the cousins growing up, pretty big family on both sides. I was one of the youngest on one side, and I was the eldest on the other, so It was a kind of good dynamic.
Yeah.
And another cool thing was, one of the things that got me into real estate was my grandfather was into real estate in Trinidad. So, always going to his office, going to my dad's office, seeing firsthand how they kind of did things, that whole entrepreneurial mindset. Just kind of tagging along for the ride when I could.
That's cool. So what did your grandpa invest in Trinidad?
So a mix of different real estate. So residential, commercial, different things. It's one of those motivating things early on in my life when I connected the dots that he really grew the family from a point where, no shoes, farmers kind of thing, to now his brothers went to school. All my parents and their siblings all got to go to University of Toronto and stuff like that. It really showed me early on, that impact that entrepreneurship, investing could have on generations.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Very cool. Okay, so what got you into real estate investing? I know you're doing that now and you're taking it on full time, but let's talk a bit about your journey. How did you get to this point?
Yeah, so it was always something in the back of my mind that I wanted to do. So my grandfather's company was R. Rampersad Investments. My initials end up being R. Rampersad Investments. So I actually did a internship at Procter Gamble in Belleville back in 2014. And, prices then were a lot different than it is now. Mm-hmm. And one of the drivers that pushed me back to Belleville, the company was good too, but it was the fact that I could buy a house right out of school. Mm-hmm. My first house, I got a 5-bedroom. For $180K out in Belleville. I rented out all the rooms to other engineers who started with me. And that's really what got the bug going into real estate. I always thought initially that it was going to be, more of a passive thing. It was a smart thing to do, or I was going to climb the corporate ladder. Mm-hmm. But really, I always wanted to buy a house, and I bought one in a cheap spot.
Yeah. 5-bedroom house in Belleville. What year was that?
That was, so I bought that when I went back full time in 2016.
Okay, 2016. So we actually started around the same time.
Oh, nice.
Because I bought my first place in Hamilton.
Oh, cool.
In 2017.
Nice.
So yeah, that was pretty cool. All right. So from there, what happened? You end up buying this place in 2016. You rent out the rooms to some of your roommates, and then what?
Yeah. So I was kind of figuring out my own way. Unfortunately, I did not look at, a lot of podcasts, a lot of videos, a lot of books at the time. I was just kind of doing what I thought was right. So I did rent all the rooms out, like I said, slowly kind of by myself, finished the basement. The bedrooms were finished, but added a kitchen, that kind of thing. And then based on the cash flow, so I was making some pretty good cash flow if you'd want to do the math at 4 bedrooms at a $700 mortgage.
Yeah.
So I used that money to then buy a townhouse in a new subdivision in Belleville.
You use the cash flow or
so
like
I saved up. So I pretty much saved up a bunch of money, and then I moved in. So I did, it was for my own home, so I put 10% down, and then bought the second townhouse. That was a good move because that was before. Now, if you drive north of the 401 in Belleville, there's just subdivisions, like subdivisions on subdivisions. That was one of the early ones there. So I got in at a good time, got a nice quality townhouse, and then I had 3 bedrooms in that, and I rented out 2 out of 3. 2 other people who worked at P&G with me. And then that just kept snowballing. In 2019 though, my 2 business partners, they were also investing on their own. And we decided to join forces to get a bit more aggressive with it. We were all, at that point I had 3 houses. They had a few under their belt, and we knew we were getting to that point where we were going to get captive financing. And fun fact, when I did my internship, I actually was housemates with the 2 of them.
Oh, okay.
So
that's cool.
We were friends for a long time, and we figured let's jump in. Very different skill sets. And Olympus was formed.
Okay, so let's talk a bit about your journey there, because you were working full time at that time.
Yeah.
Procter and Gamble, was it?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So what happened? Because now you're not working there anymore. Tell us a bit about that transition.
Sure. So I was working at Procter & Gamble. I mentioned before, I definitely had no intentions of, leaving my job, going into real estate. I had every intention to grow the corporate ladder. I was getting my promotions. I was getting my pay bumps. But I think, at a certain point, I realized that my growth was going to be capped. I was doing real estate. I was making really good returns there. If you go to our Instagram page, one of Matt's comments is just like he realized that one property, he was making double, triple what he would make in his raise. And I remember it was one day we were doing our first flip. So, evenings and weekends, we would go over after work and we did like the full renovation ourselves, full gut job, everything. And I remember over some pizza and beer, Matt and I charting out on a chart pad, okay, how much money do we actually need to make this thing full time? And the answer was not very much.
Yeah.
And so, we made a plan and we ended up leaving. Matt left first and I left about 4 months later. And now we're just doing it full time.
So you're basically living off of the cash flow that you're making from the properties. Is that right?
So it was a mix. So we're not living fully off the cash flow. So it was one of those things where, we were not at the point where we were fully financially independent from cash flow. But we figured, if we're going to work 60, 70, 80 hours a week at P&G, let's try to do it for ourselves. We felt like we were smart guys. Let's see what we can make happen. So initially what we did right off the bat when we left is we did a bunch of really big flips to really kind of stockpile. We knew that it was a wave. We knew it was temporary because, our investing until that point were all buy and hold, and they continue to be buy and hold. But we figured let's ride the wave while we can. We used that to stockpile a bunch of cash. We had some of the cash flow, and now we also have a little bit of property management income that we take from other local investors in the area. We help them manage as we have everything set up. And that's kind of how we manage and just continuing to grow the portfolio now. Yeah.
So how do you feel doing this, what you're doing now, compared to working that full-time job at P&G and kind of working for someone else and whatever else?
I think it's a huge difference. So I think it also took a while to get to where I am now, where, when you first left, because again, like I wasn't in a lot of mentorship programs. I regret that now, but I wasn't in all of these things hearing about mentality. So I quit my job and now, I don't know, the mindset wasn't there yet. It took me a long time to kind of realize, the visionary mindset, the more long-term thinking mindset to really transform the way I did business. And once I made those connections, man, now I love it. I could never go back. I think the first 6 months, I was like, why did I leave P&G for this? Like the 25th every month, I'd get my paycheck. It was a good paycheck. And now I wasn't getting anything. I'm like always working, always turned on. But no, I love it. Once those mindset changes, things kicked in, I would never go back.
Yeah, I know. It's there's a pretty nice feeling when you work for yourself and then you know that you're building towards something big. Because if you're working a job, like, yeah, you're getting the paycheck every 2 weeks or whatever, and it's awesome, but then you're constantly kind of, like, it's kind of a cliche, but you're on the treadmill, you're on the hamster wheel, whatever, you're just constantly working. Whereas when you own some real estate, you give it some time, it's going to be beneficial for you. As long as you're responsible, you're not pulling money out to go on vacation all the time and that kind of thing, right?
Yeah, for sure. I think you hit the nail on the head though. That vision point, that vision is key. Once you got laser focused on that, you realize you are working as something bigger. Yeah, for sure.
And I think a big part of that too is probably having like a supportive partner. So I know you just got married. Congratulations.
Thank you.
What did your now wife think of you leaving your job? Did she think you're crazy? What was that like?
She definitely thinks I'm crazy. But I think she also knew that I got to the point at P&G where, okay, I wouldn't say that I hated P&G because like I had a great time there, but it was to the point where I was done and I was ready for the next step. And she knew that. She knew I was itching for the next step. So yeah, it was definitely a very good thing that I had such a supportive partner. We've actually been together for about 9.5 years. We met in university.
Yeah.
So she's seen the full transition. So she definitely very supportive. Matt and I always joke when we left our jobs, when we sold our first flip, we took the girls out to dinner. So he just got married in June, I got married in July. And we're like, thanks for paying for our lives for the last 6 months. Let's not do that again.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So that's great. But why? Okay. So tell us a bit about Belleville. You said that you kind of got started at first because it was cheaper. It was easier to get in. What makes you want to continue to invest out there?
Yeah. So 100% right away. It was the price cost of entry was low. But then over time, you started to learn, you started to read books. Okay, what are the economic fundamentals? So things like GDP growth, you got industry, demographic changes, infrastructure investments. And when I'm reading all of these things, I'm like, okay, well, check. Belleville's got all those. And especially recently, like in the last 5 years, it's just been blowing up in terms of investment. You see things on the news where Black Bear Golf Course in Belleville, they have a $1.5 billion budget to build a golf resort. You have, 110 acres of industrial land just acquired and building permits taken out. There's rumors of who it is, but regardless of who it is, 110 acre industrial development is massive. You got Procter Gamble out there. You got Black Diamond out there. There's just so many good economic drivers to that area. You got the GDP growth. You got all of those things it's like one of those things, if it's not broke, why fix it? We built the local connections there. We built our team there. And the numbers still work. So,
well, what was it like building your team there? So finding contractors and all that. I'm guessing you had to start from scratch because you're not from Belleville. So what was it like finding people to do the renovations and your electricians and plumbers and other trades?
It has definitely been a journey. It's definitely been a lot of trial and error. I'd say that there's a lot of contractors out there, but not necessarily a lot of good contractors, which I guess is the case anywhere you go. And we went through a lot of the good ones and the bad ones. And we made the mistake early on in, not planning too far ahead, as well as making cost be the final decision for who we picked. Those are two things completely we should not do again. Because if they're available next week, probably they're likely not good. Yeah. Good guys are booking way further out than next week.
For sure.
And the cost is the cost for a reason. The big thing with Belleville, though, is, being local. Over time, people kind of heard about us, which really helped. So, we can call a plumber up, like our plumber, we have drinks with him. We have him on speed dial. So we've been able to build a very good local relationships over time. And that's really helped. We actually have a couple guys who work directly for us as well. So kind of general labor, painting, that kind of stuff. And even those have been built over time where we kind of had them part-time, hired them for odd jobs. And now we've just kept them busy 40 hours a week for the last 2 years. So.
Yeah. Well, how did you find them in the first place? Is that something like you just found you Googled them, or did you ask people around in the area who they're using?
So initially we were using Google. But then our best success has been word of mouth. And I mean, once you get a couple of good contractors, they know the other good contractors, they follow them and build stuff like that. And then especially in a smaller town like that, once you build a good reputation, people want to show up and work for you. But definitely word of mouth has been the best. And You think I'm joking, but Tim Hortons drive-thrus. In Belleville, a lot of the good guys don't need to advertise because they're just busy all the time. The amount, like Matt and I, we have folders on our phone, no joke, with like trucks in the Timmy's drive-thru. Matt, we need a framer. Matt will text me, hey, look, this guy's in the drive-thru, give him a call. So I think
what's the idea behind that? If somebody's in the drive-thru, why does that make them good?
Well, it's not necessarily in the drive-thru, but it's just we found a lot of contractors around town, just kind of driving around on trucks. So word of mouth, I think, just boots on the ground has helped us find some really good people who don't need to market because they're good at what they do and they're not looking to scale this massive business. They just want to go in and do a good job and move on to the next. So
okay, interesting. I've never heard anyone say that before, but that's I think that strategy could work if you're in a small town.
Correct.
I could see how that would make sense. Or even I thought you were going to say like you're asking the people that work at Tim Hortons who's good because everybody knows each other, right?
Yeah.
In small towns, but yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong. We need to vet the guys that we call.
Yeah.
But like we've gotten a lot of leads, contractor leads that way for sure.
Okay. Yeah. What's Belleville's population? Do you happen to know?
Yeah, so it's about 55,000 people in Belleville proper.
Yeah.
But if you go on the website, the Belleville City website, there's a couple links. So Belleville services a lot of rural areas around it. So within about 30-minute drive from the center of Belleville, we have about 200,000 people.
It sounds a lot like Welland.
Yeah.
Welland is about 55,000. Then you have St. Catharines, which is about 200,000, about 15 minutes away.
Yeah. Yet I think not as mature as those cities yet. It's still growing. I don't think it's, quite to that point in terms of, systems, infrastructure, that kind of thing. So it's interesting to see how it's going to go in the next few years.
What kind of properties are you targeting in Belleville right now?
So right now we're looking primarily at duplex conversions, as well as we're looking to take down, a larger multifamily in the next 6 months. Duplex conversions, and although we kind of churn those out, they've become a bit of our bread and butter. So we got 2 on the go right now, for example, and we love them. They're it's pretty straightforward in Belleville. So that's what we're looking at.
Can you kind of break down the numbers on your duplex conversions right now? What's the what's the purchase price, the amount that you're putting in, that sort of thing?
Yeah, sure. So the one thing, so I can give you an example of one project that we just wrapped up last month and we have tenanted. The one thing to note is the projects that we do take on kind of widely vary in scope. So we're all engineers by background. So sometimes we take on, some really, really bad projects. So the purchase prices and stuff are a bit skewed. But I think this one that we wrapped up last week is pretty representative of, a normal deal in Belleville. So we picked up a deal last year in November off market from a wholesaler. So we bought that for $347, wholesale fee included. It was a single-family duplex. Single-family bungalow. Okay. Brick bungalow. Yeah. Whoops. And at the end of the day, we put in $150K into that. One thing to keep in mind is that we like to do a little bit higher end renovations, in terms of our finishes to attract a certain, tenant profile. We have military tenants out there. We have nursing, med school students. So we try to target that kind of profile. Yeah. As well as we fully separate all our utilities. So water, heat, hydro, everything. We add laundry capability, etc. So I'd say $150K, that's what drove a lot of that budget.
Is that just for the basement or is that $150 like you did the upper level as well?
Upper level and lower level. The upper level needed relatively minimal work, like it wasn't a full gut job. So, paint, we did put in a new kitchen just to kind of bring it up to standard. But $150K was...
That's pretty good.
Yeah. So, we thought so. So
yeah.
It was a good project for sure. So at that point we're about $500K in. Yep. So right now Belleville duplexes are appraising anywhere between $650 to $700K. So that specific property was $675 appraised, and yeah, so that's the one. And then from a rent standpoint, so the upstairs we're actually renting for $2,000 plus utilities. $2,100 plus utilities, and the basement we're renting for $1,750 plus utilities.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
that's a crazy number. $1,750 for Belleville.
Yeah, it is.
Wow.
Actually, I would say even that 2100 is on the low end. Right
Yeah.
now, some other units are renting for 23, 24.
Mm-hmm.
But we got a good deal where the tenants upstairs are going to help with lawn care for a couple of our properties.
Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so this 1750, the basement, is that a walkout basement or is that just kind of like a standard basement?
So it's not a walkout. It's a standard basement.
Yeah.
There was a side entry. So we kind of leveraged that. We did split the deck down the middle. And, as I said, like 2 really big bedrooms, nice bathroom, nice kitchen, laundry, everything in there. And then fully separate utilities. So heating, cooling, everything. But it's still crazy. It's crazy to think 1750.
Yeah, because I'm thinking like even in Brampton where we live, a lot of basements go for like 1,400.
Yeah.
So I don't understand how Belleville would get that much. It's pretty insane.
Yeah, I think a couple drivers too is on top of the quality. Like there's a nice big backyard. The location is really good. The person who moved in was actually working like right down the street. So there's a lot of positive factors going for it. But frankly, there's just no supply of good rental units.
Yeah, that makes sense. Because I know it's just kind of the same thing in Hamilton, right? I don't know why Brampton seems so far behind. Maybe because there's a lot of basements for rent in Brampton. That could be the reason. But yeah, those are great numbers. So you're basically, if you refi, you got 675, so you're getting 80% of that back. So you're gonna cover like pretty much all of your rental costs and then some of your down payment, right?
Correct. Yeah. So that one actually, though, we're actually not going to do the refi. So we did this one with a partner.
Okay.
Who would like to leave the money in to keep the cash flow high.
Yeah.
But I mean, we could have if we wanted to. Yeah.
That makes sense. So did you buy it from the wholesaler? Did you buy and get a conventional mortgage or did you have to get private?
So we did conventional, grade A, with a JV partner. So that made everything pretty good. So this JV partner actually also got married. I think it was a season of wedding. So I think he wants to leave some money in so that he could buy himself and his new wife a bigger house. So
yeah. Well, all the people that were thinking about getting married the last 2 years and postponed it, they all pretty much got married this year, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people. Like we got married in 2020 and we had 12 people at our wedding because that's all we were allowed to have, right?
Yeah, fair enough.
But yeah, it's pretty cool that we're seeing all these changes and a lot of babies too.
Yeah.
Okay, so Belleville seems to be working out very well for you. What's the plan? Like, what are you aiming to do here? Do you have a certain goal in mind, or are you just like go, whatever? No, don't stop until you die, kind of thing.
I mean, kind of. But I think what we're gonna keep steady is the duplex conversions in Belleville. So the Quinte region. So we also have a couple rentals in Trenton. So Belleville, Trenton, similar market, pretty much the same market. So I think we're gonna keep those going. We have a couple JV partners, even on one that we started last month. And we're going to continue to grow that, just kind of pump those out. But the really aggressive goal that we want to do is to start taking down, 10 plus unit buildings. Now, that being said, we may have to widen our kind of lens for that. But we're going to stick on the east end. So from Quinte region to Kingston. And just trying to increase the amount of multifamilies in our portfolio and get into that game. We kind of dipped our toes a little bit in the multifamily space to get it more experience with the commercial financing and stuff when we bought a mixed-use building in Belleville at the beginning of this year. And now, with a bit of that experience on how to navigate multi-res financing, stuff like that. We're ready to jump into the next step.
So tell us a bit about that mixed use building that you acquired. Break it down for us and then maybe tell us how the financing went.
Sure, that financing was very tough, so definitely happy to share. So, being there in Belleville for a number of years, we were seeing firsthand the growth that downtown Belleville in particular is seeing. For context, like back in 2010, 2011, Belleville was like the top unsafe city in Canada in terms of break and entering.
Wow.
But the city has been doing some really good things in terms of policing, mental health stuff. Like there's somebody downtown, like if there's a mentally challenged person, like you call this lady who knows everybody, and they have really good services. They're really cracking down on a lot of things, and we were seeing that growth. I'd say 5 years ago I would have never bought a property in downtown Belleville, but over the last couple of years they've dug up the roads, put new plumbing, all these things, and so we saw an opportunity on the market at the end of 2021 for this deal on the MLS. It was $440,000 for mixed use. So upstairs was completely, abandoned. There was fire damage decades ago. Nothing was being used, and downstairs was commercial, and it was tenanted.
So it was a 2-unit
at the time. Yes. I mean, I think at some point there were 2 residential units upstairs, but I mean, it was just one big empty space when we bought it. This was the time where deals were getting harder to come by. So we figured, this was a great strategic play, especially as we build our reputation in Belleville, because like downtown, like there's a bunch of money getting pumped in. We want to, be known in the local community. So it was a really good strategic play, as well as for 3 units at $440K. And we had the vision of making it 4 units. You couldn't really get that price very easily. So we decided to offer on it. We got it on the MLS. But the financing was very tough. So that was a lesson in commercial financing. Because I did not realize that a lot of lenders actually have like a minimum limit that they would actually lend under. It's like 2 mil. So I'd call them and be like, I bought this commercial. I need a commercial mortgage for $440K. And I'd just be like, no, you're not going to get that. Yeah. As well as like we needed like $600K of renovation budget to bring it up, to be good. So ended up, there was a lot of calling a lot of brokers, dealing with a lot of people. It was a very tough deal to finance, but I was able to get one broker with Clover Mortgage, Stephen Crow. He was super great. We got a private lender to lend us on that deal, both construction and purchase price, which is very handy. We were able to leverage collateral on, it's the equity that we had in a lot of the properties in our portfolio, because we've been holding some for a number of years. So we didn't actually need to put cash out of pocket for this. So the ARV based on cap rate, and we're being a bit conservative on the cap rate, it's going to sit at around 1.55 mil. Once we're done. However, we're going to get capped because of the interest rate. So we're going to have to be, keep the debt service coverage ratio at a healthy number. We're looking to pull out most of our money. We're going to leave about $200K in order to keep that debt service coverage ratio in. There's a lot of good things with that deal though, like I mentioned, the strategic part, but then also it's actually zoned for 3 stories. So there is, as the downtown Belleville continues to grow, we're framing things in and we're setting things up in the construction so that we'll be prepared to take that next step once that growth continues.
Cool. Okay, so you're saying your plan is to turn it from 2 units to 4, right? So correct. Are you going to convert that commercial space into residential, 2 residential units, or are you going to keep 2 commercial units?
We're actually going to convert the upstairs into 3 residential.
Oh.
So it's actually a pretty long building. So it's about just over 2,200 square feet per floor. So we're going to keep the commercial unit as it is because we think it's a really good space, set it up as a nice cafe or something like that. And we're going to be very strategic in the tenant that we pick for there. And then the upstairs, we're going to have 3 units. The base plan right now is to see how we can get into the Airbnb space. It'll be our first step into that because of what we're seeing on that street. That street, what's happening behind the walls on that street, like there is going to be a huge number of high-end Airbnbs, bed and breakfast launching by next spring. So we want to be part of that. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be interesting for us. Okay. Nice brick walls, nice loft ceilings. I think the ceilings are like 16 feet at least with nice exposed brick walls. We took the horsehair plaster off and like it'll be beautiful when it's done. Yeah,
cool. So 2,200 square feet upstairs. Are you working with an architect or a designer to lay out the units and all that, or are you not there yet?
So that's already done. So we're actually under construction right now. Framing is being done as we speak.
Cool.
So we worked with an engineer. Alex is my other partner, his old school friend, Doll Group Engineering. He's actually based out of Barrie. But we also have a couple local designers who kind of help with, some of our smaller projects. So we definitely have to get a bit creative with this one, like, adding skylights to meet minimum like light threshold requirements and stuff like that, because, we're jammed on either side. But I think the units are going to be very nice when it's done. Mm-hmm. Adding separate entries for each one so we don't have shared walkways, shared corridors, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. We definitely have to be creative with this one.
Right. And then do you have to put in like a fire escape at the back or something for each unit, or what's that going to be like?
Yeah, so how we've designed it is that each unit has its own entry. So it's not a shared entry at all. There's no shared space. So we do need 2 points of egress. So on one side of the building, there is a building that's shorter than us, so you can actually exit through the roof. But yeah, I think that was the longest part. The permits took a very long time to go through, and it was all fire code regulations, like what needs to be made of combustible, non-combustible material. But the positive though is once you go through all of that, Belleville actually gives a lot of rebates. So they give you rebates for improving the front facade. They give you rebates for retrofitting up the current fire code. They freeze your residential property tax if you meet certain requirements for 10 years. So it was a pain, but I think it'll be worth it in the end for sure.
Yeah. And how do you apply for those rebates? Is that I guess that's something you have to do ahead of time, right? Before you start doing the work, and then you get the rebate later on as you provide the invoices and the proof that the work's been done.
Correct. So you need to do that in parallel with your permit submission. As well as like the front facade, you need to have quotes ready for it and submit all that at once. So it is a pretty rigorous process, but overall I think, it's good. It's good amounts of money that they give you. And I think it'll be a nice building when it's done for sure.
And you're doing all this yourself, managing like all the rebates and all that, or is that something that your designer is doing, your architect's doing?
So between Matt and I, we're managing that all ourselves. What we're trying to do is, kind of bring everything in-house. So we actually brought an admin onto our team. She's starting next week. We have a labor, as we said, and we're trying to bring everything in-house to our team to really kind of cut costs. I mean, at the end of the day, when I was at P&G, I managed operations. So ops is what I'm good at. So I'm trying to build my own operation.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
Okay. So aside from that, so you've got a lot going on here. You're not only purchasing properties, but you're adding value. You're starting to get into more of the larger units. How do you think you're going to start getting into those 10-unit buildings? What do you think is going to have to change?
I think we need to grow on a lot of the systems that we currently have. So, we've been spending a lot of time building our back-end system. So from, using Asana, how do we get automations into our system? Just so we could scale it a lot better so that we don't spend all our money outsourcing everything. So that's one. The second thing would be really, starting to raise a lot more and getting outside of our Belleville bubble in order to get into those larger deals. So, we have high aspirations and those numbers get very big. But I think, once we have that solid business operations backing us, I think we'll be in a good spot. Mm-hmm. So I think the operations are pretty much set up now, and now it's just time to find the next deal.
Yeah. That's great. When it comes to those 10-unit buildings or larger, what are you doing to find the opportunities? Are you just looking on MLS, or are you doing other things to create opportunities?
Yeah. So right now, MLS is a big part. I've been messaging, a lot of realtors, so we're in contact with a bunch, especially the units that are there for a long time. So 30 plus days on market. I do have.
That's funny that it's a long time, because 30 days on the market isn't that long, really.
Yeah, fair enough.
But we got used to
100%
property selling fast. But yeah, sorry, keep going.
100%. Yeah, that is a good point. But a lot of those that are sitting a bit longer that I know are overvalued for Belleville, kind of reaching out right now in conversation with a couple to see what deals we could work out, building. We're gonna have to leverage a lot of the local relationships that I've built now. The Quinte Landlords Association and stuff like that. And just getting really aggressive with it now that we have things in place, to take these projects on. Mm-hmm. So it's gonna be an interesting few months.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, I'm excited to see how you grow, because I'm kind of doing the same thing. My goal is to get into a 10-unit building or larger, and I've been just trying to either find off-market opportunities on the MLS and then start raising capital, like you said, just finding different ways to raise capital other than the ways that I've been doing in the past, because I was going after smaller deals. So yeah, there's definitely some adjustments, but I find that when you start focusing on something, things start to come into play. Mm-hmm. I'll give you an example. I kind of wrote down a goal that I'm going to buy a 10-unit building. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden, literally, I think 2 days later, I get a message on Instagram from someone saying hey, we're looking to buy a building. Can you help us? Can you represent us as a realtor? I know it's not exactly what my goal is, but I'm starting to draw that in, which is pretty cool how it works, right?
Yeah, that is very cool. Definitely, understand what you're saying. Setting that vision is definitely key. It's been interesting too, because there's never a guy in social media, but you don't realize the power that social media has until you start posting regularly. And now that we started to post, people actually see, hey, these guys are doing a lot of cool things. I think for a long time people thought we were just a construction company, and now they're realizing, oh no, these guys have actually built quite a portfolio for themselves. So it's going to be good.
Yeah, for sure. Keep doing what you're doing, because those sound like some pretty exciting projects, and then you're gonna keep building that cash flow. You're gonna grow your portfolio, and again, like when you start noticing some of these people that are selling their properties now, they're maybe a little bit older, they want to get out of the game. What I keep hearing from them is like, I don't really want to sell this because I'm generating really good cash flow and this is my retirement fund and whatever. So it's cool to get to that point where you've been investing for 20, 30 years and like every property is generating whatever, 50,000, 60,000, 100,000 a year for you, and you get to keep all that at some point once you paid off the mortgages, right?
Yeah, so I think that's a good point, because I think one of the angles that I've been tackling as I reach out to people right now is how do I approach it from a vendor take back standpoint, so that they still keep their income. Because it was crazy. It was like, man, enjoy your life now. Like, I'll just pay you. And then getting the asset for myself. So I'm definitely trying to work a couple of those right now. And I think that there's a big transition that's about to happen in Belleville. I think a lot of older landlords, definitely a lot of opportunity there, a lot of units to turn over, a lot of buildings that have just been sitting for a while without any real improvement. So my partners and I want to see Belleville continue to grow and improve, and happy to be part of that. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think the key thing with the VTBs, like if you want to be successful, is to really understand them well, for one.
Yeah.
Because I remember when I first got introduced to the concept of VTBs and went on, I was trying to get them. I didn't really know how to explain it. Like, what's the benefit? Why would you do this? Because people always want to know why should I do the VTB? Once you really understand how it works and how it benefits the seller, that's a key, really important factor. Because that'll help your chances. And then another thing that I've been hearing from different people is to try to get a property under contract and then negotiate a VTB after.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, like show them that you have every intention on closing, like you're really working to get the financing, but then you've come across this challenge or that challenge getting financing. So, hey, do you think you can help out by, well, I mean, it's beneficial to you too, but like by providing a portion of the mortgage yourself, then it's a win-win situation, that sort of thing, right?
That's an interesting way of approaching it, for sure.
Yeah.
So that'd be cool. I think another thing too that I am doing differently is earlier on I mentioned that I went a long time without coaching, and I finally got a coach.
Oh yeah.
Finally joined the Durham REI.
Oh, okay.
Joined, with Paul and Quinte in there.
Yeah.
That has been game changing for sure.
Yeah,
just
Paul.
Like all my stupid ideas, I can just filter it out the WhatsApp chat, and I don't need to learn the hard lessons.
Yeah. Paul was just on. He's the one who introduced us. Yeah. So for those that are listening, if you want to listen to the episode with Paul, he came, I think it was 2 or 3 episodes ago that he was here. Yeah.
Great guy, great group. So
how's that coaching going?
It is good. So, we have our weekly calls. We have our WhatsApp chat, which is phenomenal. I think even just today, the Bank of Canada interest rate announcement, got announced today, and obviously the chat was buzzing. So it's kind of good to just, have a forum where you have other like-minded investors and stuff in a kind of dedicated way to just kind of chat, share thoughts, share war stories, learn from people who've done more than you. Definitely is great. I would definitely recommend it. And just coaching in general, like I don't know why I didn't do it sooner. Like I had a coach in everything else, every other aspect of my life except this one. So
yeah. If you have the right coach, it'll bring you miles ahead of where you would have been without one, for sure. Yeah. I got coached by Quinte as well.
Oh, nice.
Well, Quinte, you got Paul, but Quinte helped me so much, and I was always going to be grateful for that.
Yeah, it's aspirational when you hear people who do, really, really big things like that, to just surround yourself with them and just, have bigger goals than you even thought was possible. So
yeah, exactly. And just getting pushed all the time, that's the good thing. And then having communities like this, I got to meet so many good people just from having them on the podcast, learning all these different strategies, what people are doing, different markets and all that. So that's another cool thing. So anyone listening, make sure you keep listening to this podcast and you'll learn more and more. So do you have any advice for maybe people that are listening that are interested in kind of going on the same path as you, maybe quitting their job, that sort of thing?
Yeah, so I think, 2 things. One, be really clear on what you actually need to survive on or live on or, thrive on if you don't want to just survive. Because sometimes that number is a lot lower than you think. And, the security of the paycheck is, just almost like a mirage. Because that number is not really that high when you think about it. And you could probably jump sooner than you think you could. the second thing is patience is key. I think a big thing with Olympus and our portfolio is we've been able to build up a large amount of equity in our portfolio because of time. When I bought my first one, so the 180K, my mortgage rate was in the high threes. One of my other houses, I had a fixed conventional in like high threes, and I was freaking out that this thing is like so high when interest rates dropped. But now, I'm in a good position again. So, everything averages out over time. Things, if you're buying good quality assets, patience is going to be key. There was a period, where I was getting, really caught up with the hype, with the market, with everybody online. Just being laser focused, having that vision and having patience is very important.
Absolutely. Yeah. I remember I went through the same thing. I had a mortgage at like 3.69%, and I thought that was so crazy. This was like, I think I got the mortgage in 2018, and then the rates went down to like the low twos. And then, I was just thinking I could save so much if I just refinance this thing. Since then, I've only been getting variable mortgages because of the flexibility. But now like you're starting to feel the pain if you have properties that were cash flowing X amount, and now with the higher rates, it's dwindling way down, right? But hopefully it's just temporary. Like a lot of people feel like it's going to go on for another year, maybe 2 years, and then things should go back to normal. But we'll see what happens.
I mean, the economy is cyclical, right? So we're just in a bad part of the cycle. Yeah. So that's where patience is going to be key.
Exactly.
And good quality assets.
Exactly. And now is a great time to start buying those assets, right? Because there are deals. Like I'm seeing stuff on the market now that for sure, if this was 6 months ago or a year ago, it wouldn't be on the market. Like there's no way. 100%. There's lots of those opportunities. So capitalize if you can. Let's go into basically what your if you have any services that you're offering or anything of that nature, and also the best way to reach you.
Sure. Yeah. So, I mean, the two big things that we do. So we're always looking for joint venture partners, both, in our larger deals like the mixed use, duplex conversions, always down to just chat about real estate in general, about Belleville in general. We know the area pretty well. And we're still looking to invest in a lot more duplex conversions. And then secondly, we actually just launched property management in Belleville in the Quinte region. We felt that there was a need there. There's a lack of investor-focused property managers who are investors themselves. We have our team there, and we figured let's extend the service to some others of people who want to build good quality units like ourselves. In terms of how to reach me, we're on Instagram, so olympus.properties. And if you message Olympus, I'm probably going to be the guy answering you. So, cool. That's the best way, the quickest way to reach us.
Yeah. One last thing I want to ask you, because I was going to ask you before, but I forgot. When you purchased that property off the wholesaler, the one that you got for $347, the duplex conversion.
Yeah.
And you said you got a conventional mortgage. So how did that work? Because they take an assignment fee. So how do you like pay off the assignment fee and then get a mortgage on the remaining amount?
Yeah, so the deposit that we put down, the down payment, was larger than the deposit fees, so I guess the bank was okay with it. To be honest, like I was prepared to pay the extra fee, but we didn't have to in this deal.
It was built in.
Yeah, they built it in for us. Yeah. I mean, the big surprise for me with the wholesale deal, that was my first wholesale deal actually. The biggest surprise was the fact that the deposit is like, you got to do it like right now, as well as the size of the deposit is usually a bit bigger than another real estate transaction, especially in Belleville, but the bank was pretty okay with it. I mean, the property was fine. There was nothing like structurally wrong. It was inhabitable. It was just, a bit dated, and the basement was unfinished. So overall, the property is in good shape. The appraisal came in, way higher than what we were paying it for. So I think the bank was, pretty lenient with us for that, because they felt that they were going to get, it was a secure investment for them. Yeah. So
cool. Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing all this. I hope that the people that are listening got something out of it. I know I love hearing about people reaching for certain goals and going after the 10 plus units. That's exactly what I'm going for. So we're on the same page here. And I look forward to having another chat with you soon.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me on. It was a lot of fun.
Thanks for listening to this episode. Your support is truly appreciated. And if you can share this with a friend or family member that might benefit from the information, remember, our goal is to motivate and inspire others to take action and to build wealth and to become well off. Enjoy the rest of your day.